The Grand Overseer Vax Sorban swished his tentacles with delight as he examined the newly acquired specimens. Such primitive beings. So fragile. So exploitable. Well, 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 Vax gurgled through his speech sacs, the bubbling sound echoing across the vast holding chamber. Aren't they just the most pathetic creatures you have ever seen? Look at them. Only 2 arms. Ha! How do they even function? His assistant Plune bobbed nervously beside him. Sir, the research indicates they possess remarkable endurance and adaptability. The preliminary tests. Always with the tests, Vax interrupted, slapping a tentacle against the observation glass. I didn't authorize the Harvester fleet to travel 17 galactic sectors to collect test subjects. I authorized it to collect slaves. The humans huddled together in their containment cell, watching the aliens with a mixture of fear and, was that contempt? Vax couldn't tell. The facial expressions of these humans were still somewhat puzzling to him. But no matter, they would learn their place soon enough. Begin processing immediately, he commanded, turning away from the glass. I want them sorted, branded, and ready for distribution by the next cycle. The mining colonies on Dravax are waiting, and you know how impatient those rock breathers get. Plune hesitated, his eye stalks quivering slightly. Sir, perhaps we should proceed with caution. The data from planet Earth suggests these beings are more complex than our usual acquisitions. Vax let out a gurgling laugh that sent ripples through his gelatinous form. Complex? Complex? They are bipeds who still burn fossil fuels. They wage war over invisible borders. They can't even agree on a universal measuring system. Trust me, Plune, these humans will be the easiest slaves we have ever processed. Oh, how wrong he was. Commander Jake Larson had been awake for 3 days straight, at least by his internal clock. It was hard to tell time in this, whatever this place was. Prison? Spaceship? Some bizarre alien zoo? The lighting never changed, and the strange humming that permeated everything never stopped. You holding up okay, Doc? He asked, glancing at the woman sitting against the wall beside him. Dr. Anya Petrov looked up, her usually immaculate dark hair now tangled and dirty. Despite their circumstances, she managed a wry smile. Just peachy, Commander. Being abducted by tentacle monsters was definitely on my bucket list. Jake snorted. Your sarcasm remains intact. That's something. It's either sarcasm or screaming, she replied, stretching her legs out in front of her. And I'm saving my screaming for when those things try to separate us. Jake nodded, his expression grim. So far, they'd managed to keep their group of 15 together through sheer stubbornness. When the aliens tried to separate them into different holding cells, they'd fought back so fiercely that the creatures had relented, probably deciding it wasn't worth the trouble yet. Across the cell, Sergeant Max Diaz was coaching some of the others through a series of exercises. Keep moving, people, he called out in a hushed tone. We need to stay strong. When the moment comes, we need to be ready. Ready for what? Exactly? This came from Tomiko Ito, an aerospace engineer who had been part of the same research facility as Jake and Anya, to fight aliens with laser guns and spaceships, with our bare hands. If necessary, yes, Max replied without hesitation. But more importantly, to recognize an opportunity when it presents itself. Jake watched this exchange with approval. Max had the right idea. Keep morale up, keep bodies strong, keep minds sharp. It was their only hope. They are coming back, hissed Elijah Warner, their youngest member at just 23. The kid was some kind of programming prodigy who'd been visiting the research facility when the abduction happened. The door to their cell, a shimmering field of energy rather than any physical barrier, flickered slightly. Beyond it, 3 of the tentacled aliens approached, followed by several smaller creatures that seemed to serve as their assistants. Showtime, Jake muttered, rising to his feet. Everyone remember the plan. No separation. No submission, and watch everything they do, every button they press, every tool they use. Information is our weapon now. The energy field dropped and the aliens entered, brandishing what looked like electrified prods. The largest alien gurgled something, and a mechanical voice translated, humans. You will now be processed for labor assignment. Resistance is futile, and will result in pain stimulation. Jake stepped forward, hands raised in a non-threatening gesture. We require food and water appropriate for our species before any processing can occur. Several of us are showing signs of dehydration which will decrease our labor efficiency." The translator squawked, and the aliens conferred among themselves, clearly surprised by this logical response. "Clever," whispered Anya beside him. "Speak their language." "Efficiency." The lead alien finally responded. "Sustenance will be provided after initial processing. Step forward for biological scanning." "Negative," Jake replied firmly. "Our biology requires regular hydration. Without it, several of us may experience organ failure within the next few hours, rendering us useless for labor purposes." More conferring among the aliens. Jake could almost see the cost-benefit analysis happening in their gelatinous brains. "Very well," the translator finally squawked. "Minimal sustenance will be provided, then processing will proceed." Jake nodded, keeping his face neutral despite the small victory. "Acceptable." As the aliens retreated to arrange for food and water, Anya gave him a subtle nod of approval. "Not bad, Commander. But you know they are just going to try to separate us again during processing, whatever the hell that means." "Of course they are," Jake replied quietly. "That's when we will need to make our first real stand, and it's going to get ugly." Balloon was beginning to worry about the human acquisition project. Something wasn't right about these specimens. They were too coordinated, too strategic in their responses. The research data had indicated that humans were individualistic, often placing personal needs above group cohesion, yet this group acted with unusual unity. "The sustenance is ready for distribution," announced Mikkel, one of the junior handlers. "Should I proceed alone?" "Absolutely not," Boone responded firmly. "Take 2 security drones with you, and activate their pain receptors at the first sign of resistance." Mikkel's eye stalks trembled. "Is that necessary?" "They only asked for water." Boone's skin darkened with irritation. "They didn't ask for anything. They demanded it. There's a difference, and it's one we cannot tolerate from slave species. These humans need to learn their position in the hierarchy immediately." "Yes, Superior Ploon." Mikkel bobbed submissively and floated away to collect the security drones. Ploon turned back to the monitoring screen, studying the humans carefully. The tall one who had spoken their database had already identified him as a military leader based on the insignia on his torn uniform, was now moving through the group, speaking quietly to each individual, organizing, reassuring them. Loon couldn't be sure without audio. The female with dark hair beside him seemed to hold equal authority, though she wore no military markings. The humans deferred to both of them, creating what appeared to be a dual leadership structure. Interesting, but potentially problematic. Effective slave processing required breaking command structures. "Superior Ploon," called Mikkel from the distribution portal. "We are ready to deliver sustenance." "Proceed," Ploon authorized, "but be vigilant." The energy field dropped again and Mikkel floated in with 2 hovering security drones flanking him. The drones were equipped with pain inducers that could drop a being 3 times the size of a human in seconds. The tall human leader stepped forward again. "Water for everyone, then we cooperate with scanning." That was the agreement. Mikkel distributed the water pouches specially designed to be compatible with human biology based on their data collection. Each human received exactly 200 milliliters, the minimum required to prevent dehydration without providing comfort. Loon watched carefully as the humans drank. They were disciplined, taking small sips rather than gulping desperately despite their obvious thirst. More evidence of unusual self-control. "Scanning will now commence," Mikkel announced when the last pouch was consumed. "Form a single line and proceed through the portal one at a time." The humans didn't move. "This will separate us," stated the tall leader flatly. "Unacceptable. We will be scanned as a group or not at all." Mikkel's skin paled with alarm and he quickly looked to the monitoring camera for guidance. Ploon sent a direct communication to the security drones. "Pain induction level 1. Target the leader." The drone nearest to the tall human activated its inducer. A barely visible wave of energy pulsed out and the human dropped to one knee, his face contorted in pain. But he didn't scream. He didn't beg. He just fixed his eyes on Mikkel with a look that sent a ripple of unease through Ploon's body. It was not fear in the human's eyes. It was a promise. "Stop!" The dark-haired female stepped forward. "We will comply. One at a time. But any harm to him or any of us will be remembered." "Remembered," What an odd threat. As if these primitive beings would ever be in a position to act on such memories. Loon sent another command, cease pain induction. Proceed with scanning. The humans formed a line, with the tall leader now recovered and standing straight despite the lingering effects of the pain inducer at the front. This is going too easily now, Ploon murmured to himself. They are planning something. Jake went through the scanner first, a humming arch of alien technology that made his skin crawl as he passed under it. He memorized everything about it, its configuration, the symbols on its control panel, the way the alien technician operated it. Any information might be useful later. One by one, the rest of his people followed. Anya, Max, Tomiko, Elijah, the others, 15 humans, all that remained of the research outpost that had been studying atmospheric anomalies in northern Alaska when the aliens struck. Scanning complete, gurgled the alien through its translator. Proceed to classification chamber. They were herded through a series of corridors, each one memorized by Jake, with military precision. Right turn, straight for approximately 50 meters. Left turn, through a large atrium filled with aliens of various types. Down a ramp, the road to freedom. When the time came, the classification chamber turned out to be a large room filled with various stations, each manned by a different type of alien. Some resembled the tentacled ones who had captured them. Others were completely different crystalline structures that seemed to hover, bulbous creatures with multiple eyes, even some that looked almost insect-like. "Welcome to Hell's DMV," muttered Max beside him. Jake suppressed a grim smile. "Stay alert. Watch everything." Their group was directed to a waiting area while the aliens conferred over the scanning results. Jake took the opportunity to check on his people. "Everyone holding up?" he asked quietly. Nods all around, though he could see the strain on their faces. Fear, exhaustion, shock, but underlying it all, determination. "Good. They'd need that." "What do you think they are deciding?" asked Elijah, nodding toward the aliens. "Our market value," Anya answered before Jake could. "They are slavers. They are figuring out where to send us, what kind of work we'd be best suited for." "How can you be so calm about this?" Tomiko asked, her voice tight with controlled panic. Anya gave her a level look. "Because panic won't help us. Neither will denial. We acknowledge the situation for what it is. Then we figure out how to turn it to our advantage." "Advantage?" Tomiko repeated incredulously. "What possible advantage could we have?" "They underestimate us," Jake said simply. "All slavers do. It's a fundamental requirement of their business model. They have to believe we are less than they are. That makes them careless. Humans," the translator squawked, "approach for labor classification." One by one they were called to different stations. This time Jake didn't resist the separation. It was temporary, within sight of each other and potentially valuable for gathering information about their captors' intentions. Jake was directed to a station manned by one of the insect-like aliens. Up close, it resembled a praying mantis the size of a human, with segmented eyes that swiveled independently to examine him. Species: human. Male. Physical condition: optimal. Prior occupation: military commander. The alien's mandibles clicked as it spoke, the translator converting the sounds. Recommended assignment: heavy labor, Dravex mining colony. Jake stored that information away. Dravex mining colony? Likely their intended destination. Across the room he could see Anya being classified by one of the crystalline aliens. Its voice had a chiming quality that the translator rendered as oddly musical. Species: human. Female. Physical condition: above average. Prior occupation: scientific researcher. Recommend assignment: technical operations, organ processing facility. Different destinations. They planned to separate them after all. Jake caught Anya's eye and gave a slight shake of his head. Not yet. They weren't ready to make their move. One by one, each human was classified and assigned. When they were all finished, they were herded back together in the waiting area while the aliens finalized their processing. "They are splitting us up," Max whispered. "Different facilities, different planets probably." "I know," Jake replied. "We will need to act soon, but not here. Too many of them. Too little knowledge on our part. We need to wait for transport." Anya nodded in agreement. Transport means smaller groups of guards, more focused on moving us than watching for escape attempts. "But what if we are transported separately?" asked Tomiko. If we are going to different places, we won't be, Jake said with certainty. Not initially. They will have a central processing facility where we will be held before final distribution. That's our target. The lead alien approached them, its tentacles swishing with what Jake was beginning to recognize as satisfaction. Humans, you have been classified and assigned. You will now receive identification markers and be transported to holding facility Zeta for distribution preparation. Comply immediately. Identification markers turned out to be metallic bands attached to their wrists, each encoded with information about their classification and destination. Jake noted that the bands had no obvious locking mechanism, they simply sealed themselves when placed on the wrist. Another piece of technology to understand, another weakness to exploit when the time came. Vax Sorbin reviewed the classification reports with growing excitement. These humans were even more valuable than he had anticipated. Strong, intelligent, and with specialized skills that would fetch premium prices from the right buyers. The military one alone will bring in enough credits to cover the entire expedition, he gurgled happily to Plune, and the female scientist. The Vorgal technocracy has been asking for intelligent specimens for their processing plants for cycles now. They will pay triple the standard rate. Plune's eye stalks remained rigidly upright, a sign of concern among their species. Grand Overseer, I must again express caution regarding these specimens. Their behavior patterns suggest that they are perfect slaves. Vax interrupted. Did you see how quickly they fell in line after just one pain induction? 1. Most species require at least 3 before they understand their position. That's precisely my concern, Plune persisted. They adapted too quickly, almost as if what? Vax demanded, his skin darkening with irritation. As if they are studying us while we study them. Vax let out a gurgling laugh. Studying us? They are primitives. Plune, their most advanced technology is barely past nuclear fission. What could they possibly learn that would help them? Plune's eye stalks drooped slightly in submission, but he continued. The research team's report indicated that humans have an unusual capacity for adaptation and problem-solving. They have advanced from simple tools to space exploration in less than 10,000 cycles, a rate almost unprecedented among sentient species. Ah, Vax dismissed with a wave of his tentacles. That just means they will learn their new tasks quickly. Better for productivity. Now, arrange for their transport to holding facility Zeta. I want them processed and ready for auction within 3 cycles. Yes, Grand Overseer. Plune bobbed in acknowledgement and turned to leave. Oh, and Plune. Vax called after him, double the security detail. Not because I believe your concerns, but because these specimens are too valuable to risk. Understood. Understood, Grand Overseer. As Plune floated away to make the arrangements, Vax turned back to the monitoring screen, watching the humans as they were fitted with identification markers. Such docile creatures now, so easily controlled. Yes, these would make excellent slaves indeed. Transport to holding facility. Zeta involved being sealed in a cramped shuttle with barely enough room for all 15 humans to sit on the floor. No windows, no seats, just bare metal walls and a single energy field door guarded by 4 security drones. Cozy, remarked Elijah, trying to find a comfortable position with his back against the wall. If anyone hasn't showered recently, now would be a bad time to mention it. A few nervous laughs rippled through the group. Jake was pleased to hear it. Gallows humor was a good sign, a healthy coping mechanism in extreme situations. How long do you think this trip will take? Max asked quietly. Jake shrugged. No way to know. Could be minutes, could be days. Depends how far away this Zeta place is. And how fast their ships can travel, Anya added. Given what we have seen of their technology so far, I'm guessing they have mastered faster than light travel. Which means we could be anywhere in the galaxy by now, Tomiko said, a note of despair creeping into her voice. Jake shook his head firmly. Location doesn't matter. Our priorities remain the same. Stay together, gather information, look for weaknesses, and be ready to act when the moment comes. The shuttle lurched suddenly, and everyone grabbed for support as they felt the pull of acceleration. We have launched, Anya confirmed unnecessarily. At least the gravity systems are working, or we'd be floating around. Small mercies, Max grunted. Jake used the moment to address the group more formally. Listen up, everyone. We need to use this transit time wisely. I want each of you to share anything you have noticed about our captors. Technology, behavior patterns, potential weaknesses, anything at all. One by one, they contributed their observations. Elijah had noticed patterns in the symbols on control panels that suggested a base 12 numerical system. Tomiko had observed that the tentacled aliens seemed uncomfortable with rapid movement, suggesting possible balance issues or slow reaction times. Max had counted guard rotations and estimated their numbers on the ship. Anya had made perhaps the most valuable observation. Their technology seems to rely heavily on some form of biological interface. Did you notice how the control panels respond differently to different alien species? I think they are keyed to specific biological signatures, which means we probably can't operate their systems directly, Jake concluded. We will need to either force one of them to do it for us or find a workaround. I might have an idea about that, Elijah said hesitantly. The identification markers they put on us, I think they are partly biological. When that insect thing attached mine, I felt a small prick like it was taking a blood sample. Jake looked down at the metallic band on his wrist with renewed interest. So, these aren't just ID tags, they are collecting data on us. Or they are a biological interface calibrated to our specific signatures. Anya suggested, a way for us to interact with their systems without giving us full access. Either way, Jake said, these bands are important. Everyone try to see what they can do, but subtly. We don't want to alert the guards. For the next several hours, they experimented quietly with the wristbands, discovering that they emitted a faint glow when brought near certain areas of the shuttle walls. The glow changed color depending on who was wearing the band and how close they got to different sections. It's definitely some kind of interface, Anya confirmed after extensive testing, but I can't figure out how to actually activate anything. Keep working on it, Jake encouraged. It might be our key to... The shuttle lurched again, this time more violently, sending several of them sprawling. Deceleration, Max identified. We are arriving somewhere. Sure enough, moments later the shuttle settled with a slight bump, and the energy field door deactivated. Beyond it stood a contingent of the tentacled aliens, along with several of the insect-like guards. Exit vessel for processing. The translator commanded. Form single line. No communication. Jake caught everyone's eye and gave a small nod. Comply for now. They filed out of the shuttle into what appeared to be a massive hangar bay. Dozens of similar shuttles were docked in neat rows, and hundreds of different alien species were being processed through various checkpoints. Welcome to Grand Central Station from Hell, muttered Max under his breath. Holding Facility Zeta was clearly a major hub in the slavers' operation. As they were marched through the facility, Jake took careful note of everything: guard positions, security systems, the flow of traffic, potential exit routes. Most importantly, he noted the other slaves. Some seemed broken, shuffling along with vacant expressions. Others appeared merely subdued, watching everything with the same calculating gaze that Jake knew was in his own eyes. Potential allies, when the time came. They were taken to a large holding cell occupied by various alien species. Unlike the relatively comfortable cell on the ship, this one was crowded, with barely enough floor space for everyone to lie down. A feeding trough along one wall dispensed what appeared to be a nutritional slurry customized for different biological needs. Home sweet home, Elijah said sarcastically as the energy field sealed behind them. Jake immediately began assessing their new cellmates. Most kept their distance, watching the newcomers warily, but one creature, resembling a humanoid lizard with iridescent scales, approached them directly. New arrivals, yes? It hissed, its translator device apparently built into a collar around its neck. Your species, not seen before in the markets. We are humans, Jake replied cautiously. From Earth. The lizard being's vertical pupils widened slightly. Outer rim. Very far. The consortium grows ambitious in its harvesting. The consortium? Anya inquired. Is that what they are called? The slavers? The lizard being made a sound that might have been laughter. The Vuxian Consortium. Yes. Largest slave operation in 3 galactic sectors. Very efficient. Very cruel. And you are? Jake prompted. Salik, of Draconis Prime. The lizard tapped its scaled chest. 2 cycles in consortium custody. Awaiting auction. 2 of your cycles are theirs? Anya asked. Salik's lips pulled back, revealing pointed teeth and what might have been a smile. Clever question. Their cycles, approximately 6 of your Earth months. If my knowledge of Outer Rim calendars is correct, 6 months. Jake exchanged a glance with Anya. Too long to be held here. They needed to move sooner. This facility, Jake began carefully. What can you tell us about it? Salik tilted its head, studying Jake with calculating eyes. Why do you wish to know? Information is valuable, Jake replied simply, especially for newcomers. The lizard being considered this, then nodded slowly. True. Very well. Holding Facility Zeta serves as central processing hub for Constorium slave markets in this sector. From here, specimens are distributed to various labor camps, research facilities, or private buyers. Security measures? Max asked, moving closer. Salik's scales rippled in what might have been amusement. Extensive. Guards at all exits. Pain inducers throughout facility. Containment fields requiring vaccine biological signatures to deactivate. Automated security drones programmed to terminate escape attempts. Has anyone ever escaped? Anya questioned. Salik went very still, its eyes narrowing to slits. You ask dangerous questions, human. Just trying to understand our situation, she replied evenly. After a long moment, Salik leaned closer and lowered its voice. 3 attempts in my time here, all failed. All participants terminated, publicly. As example. Jake nodded, absorbing this information. Thank you for the warning. Selig studied them all with renewed interest. You are unusual specimens. Most new arrivals weep, beg a break, you calculate, plan interesting. We are just trying to survive, Jake said, deliberately understating their intentions. The lizard being made that laughing sound again. Survival. Yes. Good goal. It tapped the metal collar around its neck. Advice. These translator devices, not just for communication, also for tracking and punishment. Jake's hand went reflexively to his wristband. Like our markers? Similar, but more advanced. Salik's voice dropped even lower. Markets in 3 days. If you have plans, make them soon. With that cryptic warning, the lizard being retreated to its own corner of the cell, leaving the humans to consider its words. 3 days, Max murmured. Not much time. It's enough, Jake replied firmly. We keep watching, keep learning, and we look for our moment. Anya nodded in agreement. And we make some friends. Salik might not be the only one willing to help if it means a chance at freedom. Jake looked around at the diverse collection of aliens sharing their cell, potential allies, potential complications. Either way, they needed to know more. Spread out, he instructed his team. Talk to the others if they are willing. Learn everything you can, but be careful what you reveal. As his people dispersed to carry out their assignments, Jake found a spot against the wall with a good view of both the cell entrance and the general population. From here he could monitor everything while appearing to rest. The Valxian Consortium had no idea what they'd harvested from Earth. These aliens thought they'd found slaves. Instead, they'd captured the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. And when the moment came, Jake and his team would show them exactly how dangerous humans could be. Superior Plune floated anxiously outside the Grand Overseer's quarters, his skin pulsing with stress patterns. The surveillance footage from holding Facility Zeta had deeply disturbed him, but bringing concerns to Vax Sorbin was always risky. The Grand Overseer did not appreciate negative reports, especially regarding his pet projects. When the entry field finally dissolved, Plune steeled himself and floated into the luxurious chamber. Ah, Plune. Just the being I wanted to see, Vax gurgled jovially, his tentacles weaving patterns of pleasure. The preliminary auction estimates have come in for our human specimens. The projected profits are magnificent. We will be able to fund 3 more harvesting expeditions to the Outer Rim with the proceeds. Plune bobbed acknowledgement, his eye stalks carefully neutral. Indeed, Grand Overseer, the financial projections are most favorable. However, there is a security matter requiring your attention. Vex's tentacles stilled. Security? What security? The specimens are safely contained at Zeta, are they not? They are contained, yes, Plune confirmed. But surveillance indicates concerning behavior patterns. They have been systematically gathering information from other specimens, specifically information about facility layouts, security protocols, and guard rotations. Vax's skin darkened slightly. Many new specimens seek such information. It's a natural response to captivity. Yes, Grand Overseer, but most do so haphazardly, driven by panic or desperation. The humans are coordinated, methodical. They have divided tasks among themselves, pooling their findings, and they have established communication with multiple species, including some with known resistance tendencies. Such as, Vax demanded, the Draconians. Specifically a specimen called Xolic who has been involved in previous incidents. Veritas's tentacles writhed with irritation. That troublesome lizard should have been terminated after the last disruption. Proceed with immediate separation of the human specimens. Isolate the leaders, the military one, and the female scientist. That should disrupt their coordination. Loon's eye stalks drooped slightly. I have already issued that order, Grand Overseer. The facility commander reports. Resistance. Resistance? What kind of resistance? They are slaves. They don't get to resist. Not violent resistance, Loon clarified. But when guards attempted to remove the leaders, all 15 humans linked their appendages together and refused to be separated. Pain induction was attempted, but they endured it. Increasing the intensity risked permanent damage to valuable merchandise. Vex's skin was now pulsing dark ripples of rage. Then stun them, sedate them, use force fields to physically separate them. Are we running a slave facility or a recreation center? The facility commander felt it unwise to risk damage before the auction. Loon explained, the humans are currently the highest valued specimens in the facility. He requested guidance. And you came to me instead of handling this minor issue yourself? Vax's voice had dropped to a dangerous gurgle. Loon chose his next words carefully. I thought you should be informed of any potential threat to the projected profits, especially given the unusual adaptive capabilities these humans have displayed. The mention of profits calmed Vax somewhat. Very well, have the facility increase surveillance on the humans. At the first sign of actual resistance, not this passive linking of limbs, but real resistance, they are to separate the leaders immediately regardless of potential value depreciation, and move up their auction date. The sooner they are distributed to their final destinations, the better. Yes, Grand Overseer. Loon bobbed in acknowledgement. And Xolic, the Draconian. Vax waved a dismissive tentacle. Transfer it to isolation until after the human auction. We can't risk any collaborative disruption. It will be done. Loon turned to leave, then hesitated. Grand Overseer, there is one more thing. The data analysis team has completed their examination of the human ship's database. There is information there that may be relevant to our current concern. What information? Vax demanded impatiently. The humans have an extensive recorded history of resistance against captivity. Numerous accounts of organized uprisings, escapes, and rebellions. They appear to particularly value freedom as a concept, even above personal survival in many cases. Vax gurgled dismissively. All species value freedom, Ploon. That's why we must be absolutely rigorous in breaking that desire during processing. Once they accept their place, they become productive assets. Yes, Grand Overseer, but the humans seem unusually persistent in this regard and creative in their methods. Then we will be more rigorous and more creative in our containment, Vax stated firmly. Double the guards during the auction preparations, triple them during the auction itself, and inform all buyers that enhanced security protocols are recommended for these specimens, at least initially. As you command, Grand Overseer. Ploon bobbed low and exited the chamber, his skin still pulsing with worry patterns. Vax turned back to the profit projections floating in the holographic display before him, but found his earlier pleasure diminished. Ploon's concerns, while probably exaggerated, had planted a seed of unease. Perhaps it would be wise to attend the auction personally, just to ensure everything proceeded smoothly with these valuable but troublesome human specimens. Yes, that's what he would do. After all, what could possibly go wrong under his direct supervision? The first 2 days in holding facility Zeta passed in a carefully orchestrated routine of information gathering and alliance building. Jake and his team had mapped out most of the facility's accessible areas through careful observation and conversations with other captives. They'd identified the guard rotation patterns, noted the locations of security systems, and even discovered potential blind spots in the surveillance. Most importantly, they'd found allies, Salak had introduced them to a network of captives who shared their resistance to slavery, a disparate group from various species who had been passing information and waiting for an opportunity. The market's tomorrow, Salak informed them during the evening meal distribution. They have moved your auction forward. Unusual. Jake exchanged a glance with Anya. They are nervous about us. The lizard being's scales rippled in agreement. Yes, very nervous. More guards assigned, special containment protocols ordered. Then we move tonight, Jake decided. During the late shift change, Salak's vertical pupils contracted to thin lines. Bold. Perhaps foolish. Do you have a better alternative? Anya challenged. Once we are sold and separated, any chance of coordinated action disappears. The Draconian considered this, then inclined its head slightly. True, but you still have not shared your full plan. How will you overcome the security systems? The pain inducers, the biological locks? Jake looked to Elijah, who had been working tirelessly on the wristbands. The young programmer nodded confidently. We have figured out the bands, Jake explained quietly. They are not just identification markers, they are access keys, calibrated to our biological signatures. The Veraxians intended them to limit our access, but Elijah discovered they actually grant certain permissions. Salak's scales flared with interest. What permissions? Movement tracking override. For one, Elijah explained. They use the bands to monitor our positions, but I found a way to freeze the signal. As far as their systems know, we will still be in this cell even when we are not. And the containment fields? Salak pressed. That's where we need your help, Anya said. The main fields require Vrexian biological signatures to deactivate, but the emergency override systems are designed to respond to any authorized signature in case of facility-wide emergencies. Jake continued, if we can trigger an emergency protocol, all containment fields will accept any staff-level authorization to open, including the signals from our bands, which identify us as authorized merchandise within the system. Salak made a sound that might have been impressed. And how will you trigger such an emergency? Jake looked to Max, who had been unusually quiet during the planning sessions. The sergeant had been working on his own specialized task. We have been collecting the nutritional supplements from the feeding system, Max explained. Certain combinations create compounds that, while harmless to consume, become highly reactive when exposed to the energy frequencies used in the containment fields. Lissalik's eyes widened. You plan to destabilize the fields. Just enough to trigger the emergency protocols, Jake confirmed. Not enough to cause a catastrophic failure. We want to escape, not destroy the station and everyone on it. The Draconians studied them with new respect. You have had less than 3 days to formulate this plan. Humans are adaptable, Anya said with a grim smile, and highly motivated when our freedom is at stake. Salak was silent for a long moment, then nodded decisively. I will help. My network will help. But you should know they are coming for me soon. I am to be transferred to isolation until after your auction. Jake frowned. When? Tonight, during meal distribution. Then we move before that, Jake decided. Late shift change is in 4 hours. We will be ready. Salak's scales rippled with what might have been excitement. 4 hours. I will spread word to the network. Be prepared for chaos, humans, and be worthy of your freedom. As the lizard being moved away to contact its allies, Jake gathered his team for final preparations. This is it, he told them quietly. Our one shot. We stick to the plan. Elijah freezes the tracking signals. Max triggers the emergency protocols. Anya leads the way to the shuttle bay. I coordinate with Salak's network for diversions. Question. What about the others? Tomiko asked. The ones who aren't part of the resistance network. Jake's expression was solemn. We open every cell we pass, we give everyone a chance. But our priority has to be securing a shuttle and getting out. We can't save everyone, but we will try, Anya added firmly. That's what makes us different from them. Jake nodded. Exactly. Now rest while you can. When the moment comes, we will need every ounce of strength and focus. As the others settled back, conserving energy for what was to come, Jake found himself studying the various aliens around them. So many different species, all reduced to merchandise by the Veraxians. All stripped of their dignity, their rights, their freedom. The consortium had made a fatal error in their assessment of humans. They had looked at Earth's divisive politics, its wars, its struggles, and seen weakness. They hadn't understood that those very conflicts had forged in humans an unbreakable commitment to freedom and an unparalleled expertise in fighting for it. They wanted slaves. They got executioners. And in just a few hours the reckoning would begin. The Vaxian guard Mupple was having a thoroughly average shift. 3 more hours until rotation, 2 nutrient packages left to consume, and 1 mind-numbing security circuit to complete before he could return to his rest chamber. Nothing ever happened during late-cycle duty. That's why junior guards always got stuck with it. Status check. Section 12B squawked his communication device. Mupple's tentacles flicked in annoyance as he responded. Section 12B secure. All containment fields at optimal levels. All specimens accounted for. He glanced at the monitoring panel as he said this, confirming that the holding cell containing those strange new bipeds humans they called themselves showed 15 life signatures, all properly tagged and tracked. They were huddled in their usual corners, seemingly asleep or resting. Boring, just like everything else on this shift. What Mupple didn't know was that the life signatures on his panel were being manipulated by a carefully modified identification band, and what appeared to be 15 resting humans was actually a clever arrangement of nutrition blankets stuffed with the right combination of organic matter to simulate human thermal signatures. 4 corridors away, Jake Larson and his team were already on the move. "Security checkpoint ahead," whispered Max, who was taking point. 2 guards, 1 security drone. Jake nodded. Standard approach. "Anya, you are up." Anya slipped forward, her movements fluid and silent. The wristband on her arm glowed faintly as she approached the checkpoint, the modified signal now broadcasting what the aliens would recognize as a routine merchandise transfer authorization. The guards barely glanced up as she approached, their tentacles moving lazily over their control panels. "Unscheduled transfer," Anya stated in a flat, official tone. "Priority merchandise to scanning bay 4. The guard's eye stalks swiveled toward her, then to the small group of humans behind her. One of them gurgled something, and its translator device squawked, "Transfer authorization code, Protocol 739. Anya replied smoothly, reciting the code they'd observed being used for priority movements. The guard checked its panel, tentacles moving with more alertness now. Jake tensed, ready to switch to Plan B if necessary. But after a moment, the guard's eye stalks drooped back into their board position. "Proceed." Scanning Bay 4 through Corridor 8. As they moved past the checkpoint, Elijah whispered, "That was too easy." "Don't get cocky," Jake warned. "We are just getting started." According to the facility map they'd reconstructed from various sources, they needed to make it to the central processing hub. From there, they could access the emergency systems and trigger the facility-wide protocol that would allow their modified bands to open any containment field. 2 minutes until Salik's diversion, Max noted, checking the makeshift timepiece they'd constructed. Jake nodded. "Perfect. That should draw security away from the hub just as we arrive." They moved efficiently through the corridors, encountering surprisingly little resistance. Most of the security forces seemed to be concentrated around the auction preparation areas, leaving the general facility operations with minimal coverage. "Something's wrong," Anya murmured as they approached another checkpoint that had only a single board guard. "Security is too light. Maybe they are overconfident," Tamiko suggested hopefully. Jake shook his head. "No. Anya's right. They have been nervous about us from the beginning. This feels like a trap," Max finished grimly. "Or they are focused elsewhere," Elijah countered. "Maybe there's another security situation we don't know about." Whatever the reason, they couldn't turn back now. They passed through the checkpoint with the same cover story, and soon found themselves approaching the central hub. Just as they reached the final corridor, a distant alarm began blaring. "That's Salik," Jake confirmed. "Right on time." The lizard being had promised to create a distraction in the opposite section of the facility, something eye-catching but ultimately harmless, that would draw security resources away from their target. "Move," Jake ordered, and they broke into a run. The central hub was a massive circular chamber, with workstations arranged in concentric rings around a core of pulsing energy, presumably the main power distribution node for the facility. As predicted, most of the staff had rushed off to investigate the alarm, leaving only a skeleton crew. "Elijah. Max, you are up," Jake directed. "Anya, Tamiko, secure the entrances. The rest of you watch for returning staff." Elijah hurried to a vacant workstation, examining the control interface. "It's different from the ones we have seen," he muttered, running his fingers over the alien symbols. "Give me a minute." "We may not have a minute," Jake replied tersely. "Max, get ready with the compound." Max produced a small package of the chemical mixture they'd painstakingly collected and processed. "Where do you want it?" Elijah pointed to a pulsing node near the base of the workstation. "There, that looks like an energy regulator. If we destabilize it, it should trigger the emergency protocols without causing catastrophic damage." Max carefully placed the compound against the node. "How long?" "About 30 seconds after exposure to the energy field," Elijah estimated. "Everyone better brace themselves. This will be noticeable." Jake gave the signal and Max activated the compound. Immediately it began to glow, absorbing energy from the node and becoming increasingly unstable. "Back," Jake ordered, and they all retreated to the hub's perimeter. The explosion, when it came, was less dramatic than they'd feared, but more effective than they'd hoped. The energy regulator burst with a muffled thump, sending cascading failure signals through the system. Emergency lights began flashing, and a different alarm, deeper and more urgent than Salak's diversion, echoed through the facility. "It's working," Elijah confirmed, checking his wristband, which now glowed a steady blue. "Emergency protocols activated. Our bands should now have override access." "Anya, get to the security control station," Jake directed. "Release all containment fields in sections 9 through 15. That's where most of Salak's network is being held." Anya nodded and dashed to another workstation, her band glowing as she held it against the interface panel. "I'm in, releasing containment fields now." Throughout the facility, energy barriers began to drop, releasing surprised captives from their cells. Most would be confused, but Salak's network knew exactly what was happening and would begin implementing their part of the plan, causing enough chaos to cover the humans' escape to the shuttle bay. "Security forces responding," Max warned, monitoring another panel. "They are figuring out this is the real emergency, not Salak's diversion." "Time to move," Jake decided. "Shuttle bay, as planned. Move fast. Stay together." They exited the hub just as the first security teams began to arrive, hurrying down the corridors toward the shuttle bay. All around them alarms blared and confused aliens, both staff and freed captives, rushed in every direction. Perfect chaos. "Halt!" The mechanical translation echoed from behind them as a security team spotted their group. "Keep moving," Jake shouted. "Don't look back." They rounded a corner and found themselves face to face with one of the insect-like guards, its mandibles clicking in surprise. Before it could react, Max tackled it, using his military training to quickly incapacitate the creature. "Nice takedown," Jake approved, as they continued running. "Learned that from wrestling an alligator once," Max quipped breathlessly. Though the alligator had better breath, they encountered more resistance as they neared the shuttle bay, but each time they used their numbers and their desperate determination to overcome it. Jake had never felt prouder of his team scientists and researchers who'd transformed into warriors when necessity demanded it. Finally, they reached the shuttle bay entrance, a massive portal currently locked down due to the emergency. "Elijah?" Jake prompted. The young programmer stepped forward, holding his band against the access panel. "Moment of truth," he muttered. For a heart-stopping second, nothing happened. Then with a low hum, the portal began to slide open. "We are in," Elijah exclaimed. The shuttle bay was enormous, filled with vessels of various sizes. Some were small personnel transporters, others were large cargo ships. Most importantly, they appeared to be minimally guarded, with the security forces focused on containing the spreading chaos in the facility. "There," Anya pointed. "That looks like the shuttle they brought us in on. We already know its basic layout." Jake nodded. "Good choice. Everyone, move." "Stop right there, human filth." The booming translation echoed across the bay. They turned to see a large contingent of Albician guards floating toward them, weapons raised. At their center was a particularly large specimen with elaborately patterned skin and multiple eye stalks, adorned with metallic rings. "Rand Overseer Vax Zorban," Anya identified in a whisper. "The one Salak told us about, the leader of this whole operation." Vax's skin pulsed with rage patterns as his tentacles gesticulated wildly. "Did you really think we wouldn't be monitoring you? That we wouldn't notice your pitiful escape attempt? You have caused damage to valuable consortium property. You have released dangerous specimens, and for what? There is nowhere for you to go. Jake stepped forward, positioning himself between the Vraxians and his team. We go home, back to Earth, and we tell everyone what's happening out here. A gurgling sound emerged from Vax that the translator rendered as laughter. Home? You think you can navigate interstellar space? You think you can operate Voraxian technology? Primitive fools. You are thousands of light years from your pitiful planet. Even if you could pilot a shuttle, which you cannot, you'd die of old age before reaching Earth. Jake smiled coldly. Maybe, but you know what? I'd rather die free in space than live as your slave. Noble sentiment, Vax sneered, but ultimately meaningless. You will not be killed, you are far too valuable. Instead, you will be surgically modified, your brains altered to remove this troublesome independence while preserving your useful capabilities. The buyers will be pleased with the improved merchandise. Not gonna happen, Jake replied, then raised his voice. Now! At his signal, Elijah activated the final modification they'd made to their wristbands. All 15 bands began emitting a high-frequency pulse that interfered with the Vaxians' translator devices and, more importantly, with their pain inducers. The guards writhed in confusion as their technology malfunctioned, giving the humans the opening they needed. They sprinted for the shuttle, Max and Jake taking down the few guards who managed to pursue despite the interference. "Seal the hatch," Jake ordered as they piled into the shuttle. Anya slammed her hand against the interior panel, her modified band glowing brightly. The hatch closed just as the Vaxians regrouped and opened fire, energy blasts scorching the shuttle's exterior. "Elijah, can you get this thing moving?" Jake asked urgently. The young programmer was already at the control interface, his band pressed against it as he frantically analyzed the symbols. "Working on it. The interface is recognizing the band, but I don't know the right commands." "Let me try," Anya said, joining him. "I have been studying their propulsion terminology." Outside, more security forces were arriving. They could hear the metallic thunk of magnetic locks being attached to the shuttle's hull. "Whatever you are going to do, do it fast," Max warned. "They are trying to lock us down." Suddenly the shuttle's systems came to life, control panels illuminating as the engines began to hum. "That wasn't me," Elijah said, bewildered. A familiar hissing voice emerged from the shuttle's communication system. "Humans, this is Salik. I have remote accessed your shuttle's systems. Prepare for immediate launch." "Salik," Jake exclaimed. "How did you—" "No time for explanations. Brace yourselves. This will be bumpy." The shuttle lurched violently, breaking free of the magnetic locks with a screech of tearing metal. Through the viewports, they could see the bay doors still closed ahead of them. "Salik, the bay doors," Anya began, "are about to be irrelevant," the lizard being replied cryptically. The shuttle accelerated directly toward the closed doors, energy weapons fire streaking past them from the enraged security forces. "Everyone hold on to something," Jake shouted. Just before impact, a section of the doors exploded outward, creating an opening just large enough for their shuttle to pass through. They shot into open space, leaving chaos behind them. What just happened? Tomiko gasped, picking herself up from the floor. "I believe," Anya said with a smile, "that Salik had a backup plan." The communication system crackled again. "Humans, you are clear of the facility. I have programmed an escape vector that will take you out of consortium territory." "Salik, come with us," Jake urged. "We owe you our freedom." There was a pause before the Draconian responded. "I am not on your shuttle, Commander Larson. I am still within the facility." Someone had to detonate the bay doors after all. A somber silence fell over the humans as they realized the sacrifice their ally had made. "There are others still captive," Salik continued. "What you have done today, it is just the beginning. The first successful escape from a consortium facility in many cycles. It will inspire others. It will spread." "We will come back," Jake promised. "With help, we will shut down the entire operation." "Perhaps," Salik replied, the transmission beginning to break up with distance. "Or perhaps you will do something even more damaging to the consortium. You will tell your world about us, about what exists beyond your skies, about the predators who hunt in the darkness." "We will," Anya promised. "Earth will know, and we will be ready if they come back." "Good." Salik's voice was fading now. "The shuttle is programmed to rendezvous with a trading vessel operated by allies. They will help you. The coordinates are already entered. Thank you, Asalik, Jake said earnestly. We won't forget what you have done. See that you don't, humans, and remember this, you are not alone in your love of freedom. Throughout the galaxy, there are those who resist, those who fight. You have made powerful allies today. Use that advantage wisely. With that, the transmission cut out completely, leaving the humans alone in their stolen shuttle hurtling through unfamiliar space. Now what? Elijah asked, looking to Jake. Jake moved to the viewport, staring out at the star-filled void. Now we survive. We find these allies, Salik mentioned, and then we find our way home. And when we get there, Max prompted. Jake's expression hardened. We prepare because if the Vraxians found us once, they will find us again. And next time, Earth will be ready for them. Grand Overseer Vax Zorban floated in what remained of the shuttle bay, his skin dark with rage, as damage reports flooded in. Holding Facility Zeta was in chaos. Dozens of valuable specimens had escaped in the confusion. The human shuttle had somehow broken through their security measures, and most infuriating of all, the troublesome Draconian, Salik, had escaped recapture by detonating himself along with the explosives that had breached the bay doors. Superior Plune, Vax gurgled dangerously, explain to me how this happened. Plune's eye stalks were rigid with fear. Grand Overseer, I warned that the humans were dangerous, that they were coordinating with other specimens, that they— You warned, yes, Vax interrupted, but you did not prevent, and now we have lost merchandise worth millions of credits. The Consortium Council will demand accountability. The humans couldn't have done this alone, Plune protested. They had help, inside help. We are investigating which staff members might have been compromised. I don't care about your investigations. Vax's tentacles lashed out, striking Plune and sending him tumbling backward. I care about Rizzox. Find that shuttle, recapture those humans, and make an example of anyone who assisted them. Plune righted himself, his skin pale with terror. Yes, Grand Overseer. Search vessels have already been dispatched. But the humans disabled the shuttle's tracking systems, and they are headed for the neutral zone border. If they cross, they won't cross it, Vax stated with deadly certainty, because you will stop them before they do, or your career and quite possibly your life will be forfeit. Understood? Understood, Grand Overseer. Plune bobbed submissively and quickly retreated to carry out his orders. Alone amidst the destruction, Vax seethed with rage and humiliation. 15 primitive bipeds from a backwater planet had caused all this. It was unthinkable, unacceptable. He accessed his private communication channel, connecting to a secure frequency used only for the most sensitive consortium business. This is Grand Overseer Zorban, he identified himself. Authorization code VREX Prime 773. I am invoking Protocol Omega. Repeat, Protocol Omega. Target, Sol System, 3rd planet. Local designation Earth. There was a pause before the response came. Protocol Omega authorized. Purge fleet standing by for coordinates and mission parameters. Vax's skin pulsed with grim satisfaction. Mission parameters as follows. Total harvesting of all viable specimens. Neutralization of any resistance. Planetary resources to be stripped. No trace of indigenous civilization to remain. Understood, Grand Overseer. Estimated deployment time, 3 cycles. Confirm authorization for full planetary purge. Vax didn't hesitate. Confirmed. These humans have proven too troublesome as slaves, but they will serve the consortium one way or another as an example of what happens to those who defy us. As he terminated the communication, Vax felt his rage subsiding, replaced by cold anticipation. The humans thought they had won a victory today. In reality, they had doomed their entire species. By the time those 15 escapees found their way back to Earth, if they ever did, they would find nothing but an empty, stripped world, and perhaps a commemorative plaque describing the fate of those who dared to challenge the Vaxian consortium. 3 months later, the modified Vraxian shuttle emerged from the shadow of Jupiter, its makeshift crew exhausted but triumphant. Against all odds, they had made it back to their home system. The journey had been a harrowing odyssey through unfamiliar space. As Salik had promised, they'd rendezvoused with a trading vessel operated by a coalition of species united in their opposition to the consortium's slave trade. These allies, calling themselves the Freedom Accord, had been shocked to discover intelligent life from Earth, a planet previously considered too primitive to have achieved sentience worth harvesting. With the Accord's help, they'd managed to evade consortium pursuit vessels and navigate back toward the Sol system. The Accord couldn't spare a faster ship. They were fighting their own battles against the consortium, but they'd provided star charts, supplies, and crucial modifications to the shuttle's systems. Earth dead ahead, Anya announced from the pilot's seat, where she'd spent most of the journey learning to operate the alien technology. We will be in communication range in approximately 20 minutes. Jake stood behind her, staring at the blue-white orb growing larger in their viewport. Home. After everything they'd been through, it still existed, still waited for them. Any sign of consortium vessels? He asked Max, who had taken charge of the shuttle's sensor systems. Nothing in range, Max reported, but that doesn't mean they are not coming. You heard what the Accord representative said. The Varaxians don't take humiliation well. We will be ready, Jake stated firmly. Earth needs to know what's out there, what's coming. Tamiko looked up from her workstation. Assuming they believe us, we have no proof beyond this shuttle and our own testimony. No images of the Varaxians, no recordings of the facility. We have this, Elijah countered, holding up his wrist with the alien band still attached. And we have the shuttle's database, which contains star charts, alien languages, technology schematics enough to jumpstart Earth's defensive capabilities by decades. If we can decode it all, Anya cautioned, we have only scratched the surface of what's in those systems. We will decode it, Jake said confidently. Earth's best minds will work on it. And we have allies now. The Freedom Accord promised to send representatives once they have secured their current objectives. In communication range, Anya announced, broadcasting on all emergency frequencies. She activated the modified communication system they jury-rigged to be compatible with Earth technology. This is Dr. Anya Petrov of the Northern Alaska Atmospheric Research Facility, aboard an unidentified spacecraft approaching Earth. We are 15 human survivors of an alien abduction requesting immediate communication with United Nations Security Council and military leadership. Authentication code, Sierra November 749 Echo. This is not a hoax. Repeat, this is not a hoax. For several long minutes there was no response. They continued broadcasting, repeating the message as Earth grew larger in their viewport. Then, suddenly, the communication system crackled to life. Unknown vessel. This is United States Space Command. Authentication code recognized. Dr. Petrov, your facility has been listed as destroyed with all personnel presumed dead for the past 4 months. Please verify identity. Anya glanced at Jake, who nodded encouragingly. Space Command, this is Dr. Petrov. To verify, my security clearance authorization was granted by General Frank Williams on June 12, 2024. My biometric password is Aurora Borealis Delta Sequence. We are approaching in a vessel of non-terrestrial origin following escape from an extraterrestrial hostile force. Request immediate secure landing coordinates and full quarantine protocols. Another pause, then, identity verified, Dr. Petrov. Stand by for escort and landing instructions. Be advised that you will be met by armed forces and required to undergo complete quarantine and debriefing procedures. Understood, Space Command. We expected nothing less. As she terminated the transmission, Anya looked back at her companions. This is it. Everything changes from here. Jake nodded solemnly. For Earth, for humanity, for the galaxy. He paused, then added with grim determination. The Varaxians wanted slaves. Instead, they created their own worst nightmare, a humanity that knows what's waiting in the stars and has time to prepare. They will come for us, won't they? Elijah asked quietly. The consortium, to finish what they started. Almost certainly, Jake confirmed, but they will find something very different from what they expected. Not an ignorant planet ripe for harvesting, but a united world ready to fight for its freedom. And not alone, Anya added, with allies, with knowledge, with warning. Outside the viewport, Earth military spacecraft appeared, moving into escort formation around their shuttle. The first official contact between humanity and the technology of an interstellar civilization. Well, Max remarked with a grim smile, at least we don't have to worry about whether aliens exist anymore. Now we just have to worry about the ones that want to enslave or exterminate us. One problem at a time, Jake replied, watching as their escort guided them toward home. First, we tell Earth what's coming, then we help them prepare. And when the Varaxians return, He let the thought hang unfinished. But everyone in the shuttle understood. When the Vaxians returned, humanity would be waiting, not as potential slaves but as executioners. The hunters would become the hunted, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the darkness between stars, a vast fleet of Voraxian vessels began their methodical journey toward the Sol system. Grand Overseer Vax Zorban had spared no expense for Protocol Omega-50 harvester ships, 20 battle cruisers, and the pride of the consortium, the planet cracker Inevitability. In his private chamber aboard the command vessel, Vax reviewed the final preparations. Earth would be reached in approximately 6 months by their reckoning. The humans would have no warning, no chance to prepare. Their primitive detection systems wouldn't even register the approaching fleet until it was already in their system. By then it would be too late. A pity, in some ways, Vax gurgled to himself. Such potentially valuable specimens. But discipline must be maintained. Examples must be made. A soft chime interrupted his musings, indicating an incoming communication on the secure channel. Vax activated it with a flick of his tentacle. Grand Overseer. The communication officer's voice came through. We have intercepted a transmission from the Freedom Accord. It appears they have made contact with Earth. Vax's skin darkened with rage. Impossible. The escaped humans couldn't have reached their planet yet. Our calculation— It wasn't the escaped humans, Grand Overseer, the officer interrupted, a serious breach of protocol that indicated the severity of the news. The Accord has sent an advance delegation. They are offering Earth protection. Alliance. Technology. For a moment Vax was speechless, his skin cycling through patterns of shock, rage, and finally fear. If the Accord had reached Earth before the consortium fleet, if they were offering alliance to a species that had already demonstrated unusual adaptability and resistance. Increase speed, Vax ordered, his voice a dangerous gurgle. Maximum power to propulsion. We must reach Earth before they can implement any significant defenses. Yes, Grand Overseer, but at maximum speed we risk detection long before arrival. It doesn't matter now, Vax raged. They know we are coming. This is no longer a harvesting operation, it's a war. Earth must be eliminated before it becomes a true threat. As the orders were relayed and the massive fleet surged forward with new urgency, Vax seethed with hatred for the humans who had caused this disaster. 15 insignificant bipeds had somehow escalated from escaped slaves to an existential threat to consortium operations in this sector. But it wasn't too late. Earth was still primitive. The Accord's help would be limited by their own ongoing conflicts. The consortium fleet was the most powerful military force in 3 sectors. They would reach Earth, they would destroy it, and the threat would be eliminated. And yet as Vax stared out at the star-filled void, an unfamiliar sensation crept through his gelatinous form. Was it doubt? Unthinkable. The Vaxian consortium had subjugated dozens of species across the galaxy. One primitive planet could not possibly stand against them, could it? The stars offered no answer as the Purge fleet accelerated toward Earth, carrying with it the potential end of human civilization, or perhaps, though Vax would never consider such a possibility, the beginning of the end for the Vexian consortium itself. For the hunters had awakened something unexpected in their would-be prey. Not just resistance, not just defiance, but something far more dangerous: unity of purpose, determination, righteous fury. They had wanted slaves. They got executioners, and the reckoning was coming.